G'day guys, welcome to another episode of Drones Down Under podcast. How are we all doing this evening?
Splendid.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome. So third episode of asset inspection. We finally got here. Had a little bit of disruption with new products coming out, but I'm sure we've all enjoyed it. What do you guys think?
Who doesn't love a good new drone?
Everyone likes
That's
new
right.
toys.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the M30, right?
And we did an episode about the Mini as well, which I'm still waiting for.
The leaks.
Mini rumors. Was a Mini 3 Pro, right?
That's the one.
Yeah.
Cool. So just to remind our listeners and viewers, asset inspection episode 3 is about platforms for processing and visualization. So the three of us have gone through some of the platforms that we've come across over the past few years. And we'll sort of go through that obviously over the next few minutes, and certainly not limited to those platforms. But we'll share our views and love to get your comments once you get a chance to look at the episode. Over to you, Ty. Let's start with DJI Terra.
No worries. I'll open this one up. So on screen now, you'll see DJI Terra. Whoops, out of the way. Now, I mean, it's kind of a bit of a one-stop shop again for a lot of software, but it's primarily mapping and some inspection software. It's designed from plan to capture and to analysis, can be done under the one wing. I've never actually used DJI Terra. I was just talking about that with Sean before. Have either of you guys actually used Terra at all?
Yeah, it's the quality that comes out of it, I reckon, is pretty good, and it just works as you said, a one-stop shop for DJI, because you can plan everything in the mission, then the data goes straight back into the same software practically.
Yeah.
Plus, it's great for for making DSM models for the M300 and P4P RTK.
Yeah.
It just cuts out the crap of having to try and make a contour map on QGIS or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean that's what I sort of gathered. It's really good for, and primarily for a lot of the mapping side of things.
Yeah, and I guess if you're already in the DJI ecosystem, I mean, why not DJI Terra?
Who is it really?
Yeah, but I mean, end of the day, DJI is pretty good like that. They're very Apple-like in that way, where they design everything to be interact with each other and just work.
If there's any drone pilots out there that don't use DJI, please let us know in the comments. I'd love to know.
Yeah, definitely. And especially for a lot of like the day-to-day work and stuff with drones as well. I'd really love to know if there is other people out there using them.
But are there any, so for purpose of asset inspection, this is something that we definitely recommend, guys?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It is expensive, really expensive. I think it's 14 grand for a year license from memory. Not 100%.
No, it was that expensive.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And it's limited to one machine as well. I'm sure someone
could be a very large machine.
Yeah.
It would be a
very, very large machine.
Couple of good GPUs in that one. But it is good as you're just scrolling past now. It does have an online and offline mode. Offline's good for security because everyone trusts DJI with security.
And I think, look, end of the day too, having something that is a one-stop shop obviously appeals to people. I mean, I'm sure end of the day that there's some pitfalls to it, but I mean, I hadn't had much of a really detailed look into Terra until today, and I was actually quite surprised and quite impressed. So I might have to have a bit of a play with it.
One thing to note as well, the L1 that goes in the M300, you can only process the LiDAR data in Terra.
Oh, okay.
So it keeps proprietary all in one place.
Yeah, okay.
And I think the licensing starting, you can sort of lock it to one piece of equipment. So it does work out a little bit cheaper as opposed to having multiple units. So the licensing is a bit different.
Okay.
And I think the main thing for listeners and viewers is obviously the fact that you can do 3D and 2D, right? So that's obviously the things that if you're doing asset, they're the main two things you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So we got, that's Terra. So next we got Bentley context capture.
The big guns.
Yeah, so I'd say Bentley is obviously from probably fair to say from our opinion, probably the largest company that's sort of all leading in this space. I think when I last sort of looked, the market cap is like $12 billion. So that they've been sort of doing reality capture for some time.
That's billion with a B, correct?
Billion with
Correct.
a B. I think that's US as well. So it's probably about 25 million Aussie, 25 billion Aussie, I should say. So I guess obviously they got a lot of products. I think when I last checked, it's like 200 and something odd products. We're obviously talking about context capture, which is the processing for 3D and 2D for what we would need in relation to asset inspection.
Yeah.
And you'll probably find a lot of the visualization platforms would be using the likes of context capture to create those outputs, such as a 3MX or an FBX and object files. I think that Ty just got the price up there. I believe that's US.
That'd be US, definitely.
And they have a couple of different pricing models. So you can either purchase the license or they use, I think, Virtuosity as a subscription style license as well. So obviously, great product, gives you lots of flexibility to do your own sort of processing. But obviously, it's a from a barrier to entry. It's something you got to seriously consider because it's like Terra. It's not a cheap entry, but certainly going to give you much more flexibility doing your own processing.
Definitely. Being able to do your own processing makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we might jump into the next one, which is Agisoft.
Yeah. So Agisoft Metashape, again, I would say they're pretty much in that processing space with context capture and Metashape. Both do what they call NAT. Sorry?
What does NAT stand for?
AT is the error triangulation. So, where we're actually doing a pre-check of what you captured. So rather than doing a production-ready model, you want to check that your capture's been aligned and you've got all the things you need. And both of them, it's heavily maths driven, obviously. Both of them, Bentley, both context capture and Agisoft do a very good job naturally, but I find sometimes Agisoft seems to do a much better job in AT compared to context capture. And there's different ways to do that. You can do a line through GPS data or a line through recognition in your photos. So they're constantly evolving that in their software releases. So I personally think these two are the main sort of players in processing data. And then you'll have other platforms that would have their own or kind of catch up to these two guys, naturally Bentley being the forerunner. And then you'll have visualization platforms that will use the likes of Agisoft or Bentley to kind of create the model.
It's also good to note a lot of these softwares have free trials of some sort. Like say Agisoft here has the 30-day free trial, like just says it on there on the screen. It's always a good way to kind of, when you're shopping around for processing, try out the different software, see what works for you. What gives best results.
And it's a good 30 day. They don't actually restrict you on anything. So you could actually run fairly good models that you're capturing.
It'll give you a really good idea of how it all works and the quality you get on the other end as well.
Mind you, I guess for all our listeners as well, don't try and do this on your little, your mother's old PC. You need something that's got a bit of power behind it.
Yeah. They're very power driven. A lot of the software that's not cloud based. So yeah, I agree, Danny. Definitely don't try and do this on your run-of-your-mill computer. It will cry a lot.
If you smell burning, close the program.
yeah, pretty much. I
think it's important to highlight the last three kind of covered with Terra and context capture and Metashape. They're probably more if you've got sort of established business or continuous business doing asset inspection. Whereas the next one in drone deploy, for example, they're probably a bit more practical to enter, because I think there's a monthly subscription on this sort of platform, and drone deploy is obviously, I think, one of the largest in the US.
Yeah.
And I believe from memory, they also have a capture tool as well, doesn't it, Danny?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I've used the capture tool for drone deploy. Honestly, I've found the tool pretty good. The only reason at the time I stopped using it is because they didn't have a facade automation option. And literally, like, I think it was a few weeks after I worked out that they implemented it. I haven't actually tried it to see how it all works with the new additions to capture. But I found the software for capture pretty easy to use, but I've never actually used for the visualizations though. So have either of you used it for the software side of it?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I've used it for the capture in the past, not for quite a while now. But when I have used it, it's very seamless and the app just works very cleanly. Where there's some other apps out there that are a little bit clunky that work. But
well, I think probably the biggest downside for drone deploy was cost. It's again, it's not as expensive as a Bentley or a Terra by any means, but it's still an up there monthly cost. And if you weren't using it a lot, whether it be much value.
What is the pricing tab saying?
Let's find out.
No, to the end.
Yep.
That's it.
Request demo.
Yes, the old request demo and no pricing.
This day and age, you still got to deal with people.
Yeah, so you can get a 14-day trial.
14-day, yep.
Look, again, give the trial a go, especially if you're just getting into the drone industry. I know for individuals it isn't an expensive option, but it's also not very cheap. It's an easy option to try for beginners.
And I actually click on for individual, it says for.
But you can.
You go $99.
Yeah. $99 a month, I think, for a solo operator. If you're using this constantly, it is worthwhile.
Yeah.
If you're just doing the farms and whatever.
The capture app itself too, I think you actually get a 30-day trial with that. So, I mean, again, if you're only using it for a once-off to do some photogrammetry, to give it a crack, have a go with that. You don't have to process it within drone deploy, but if you want to use the capture app just to see what it's about, you definitely can have a crack and see the end result without having to use the capture.
I think it's important. I'm pretty sure that's US dollars, and you also got restrictions on number of images. So that's what's happening now with most of these sorts of platforms. Like Drone Deploy, the Pix4Ds that are a bit more accessible. You just got to be mindfully read the conditions, because it might be cheap, but if you got a model that might be 2,000 pictures, make sure they can process all of those pictures.
Yeah, definitely. Look, end of the day, when you're doing big model processing, there's no nice way to put it. It's not cheap. In any way or form, but end of the day, it's a pretty crazy bit of technology, and a lot of the stuff that can be done with the modeling and things. If you're doing it for work, you'll be rolling those costs into what you're doing. But to just try things out, there's plenty of trials on a lot of these software that you can get in and have a go and just see what they're all about.
Definitely.
Yep.
All right.
Next, we got Pix4D, Ty.
Yes. Now, I've never used Pix4D. I've captured images for use in Pix4D that I never saw the end result of for somebody else. But again, these guys have been around for a long time.
These have been around, I think, before I even got into drones. Last time I looked into Pix4D, they only had like one or two offerings. It looks a lot more complicated, or a lot more vivid now.
Well, I mean, when I've had anything to do with it, it was all for quarries and doing volumetric measurements of the stockpiles. But I always got the impression for Pix4D, it was for a lot of large scale stuff. You've used Pix4D, haven't you, Sean, as a modeling software, haven't you?
Yeah. I think we also use it for capture as well on the P4 Pro, because I think the capture tool installs on the device.
Is it the built-in device on the P4 Pro? Oh, sorry,
No,
built-in app?
Not that I know of.
No, it's not built in. Yeah. You can download it onto it though, but it's not.
I remember when I had a rental P4 RTK a while back, it did have Pix4D Mapper on it. I wish I actually kind of had a go at it now.
Yeah, look, I think Pix4D is a pretty good product. They certainly publish the output very quickly. So basically, upload your images. There's no real engagement with anyone. And, if you got to do any kind of post correction, like using ground control, you can upload that in a CSV, and you can sort of pick your the output type that you want. So they're really, I think, probably one of the early people to sort of do that whole end-to-end automatically, and then have that thing, have the model released very quickly. Like I've had things come back in less than an hour and a couple of hours, and it's 24/7, which is great. So if you want to sort of get something out quickly, and again, you got something, I'm pretty sure that the trial is 30 days as well.
There you go.
And as we talked about, the likes of the first three we talked about, the Terras and the context capture and Agisoft, you need pretty good machine. So even if you could buy the software, you need to spend as much or more on hardware. Whereas the likes of, say, a Drone Deployer Pix4D.
That's if you can get any 3080s or 3090s anymore.
Yeah.
There's not many
what's the pricing, Ty?
Yeah. So there you go for the mapping. It's $291.67 a month US.
Why is everything US dollars?
Yeah, it just makes you cry because that's not the real number.
That especially when we've gone from Australian dollars, add another, was it like 30%?
Yeah, it's not quite. It's probably about 30 to 40%.
It fluctuates too much.
You can start with Pix4D Cloud. You don't have to get Mapper. Mapper is if you want to do corrections and stuff, but you still, and I'm pretty sure that price you're seeing is if you actually pay for the year. So it'll be more if you're doing month by month. But as you can see, really you're looking at, $100 US upwards for any of these sort of platforms of any value.
Definitely.
There's not much on the market that, I guess they probably want to cater for certain clientele as well. Who knows what they'll think. But another great, obviously, as you said, Danny, it's been around a long time. It's evolved and what do we got next? Trendspek. So
So
how about you get into this, Danny? You're very familiar with this product. Of course I was going to throw you under the bus.
It's not like I'm on the payroll.
Don't muck it up.
You're close enough, mate. Close enough.
Cover it and make him spell it.
Hands down, I still think the best out there. You're going to get a high. This is just me doing a selling point. You're going to get a much higher quality model than pretty much anything on the market. It literally this is just me selling it. Always look. It comes down to the capture of anything, but you're just going to get those millimeter details using Trendspek, and it's a drag and drop solution for at least for the DSPs. Drag and drop into your upload tab, and a couple of hours to a day or so later, depending on the size of the model, you've got a ridiculously high res model out of it. The team's Australian, so you got this support in the Australian time zone, which always helps us. You can annotate, measure, mark up, report, and compare all in the one platform. It's just a really turnkey solution for drone pilots.
Oh, 100%. Look, I mean, I haven't used heaps of platforms, but this, from the instant I was showed Trendspek, and I've used it personally as well.
Was it love at first sight?
It really was. But it's a great platform. Like, I mean, every platform has their faults and their positives, but honestly, like I can't fault it too much. I genuinely think it's a great product, and it's constantly evolving and constantly changing, which, I can't say for a lot of the other platforms that are changing that much, but these guys definitely are on the move and changing with the industry.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I think for episode 4, we've got Josh Sinclair, who'll go through a fairly deep walkthrough on some of the models. So it's a pretty interesting episode to watch. And yeah, we'll hopefully get some other product owners from these platforms throughout the year, and we'll get them to come in and talk about the platforms as well. But yeah, it's definitely a good episode to watch the next one. Any pricing info here? Any guides on where we're starting? Are we?
It's really bad. I actually haven't looked up the pricing on the website yet. The new website was only launched, say a week ago or so.
Yeah, it was.
To get in touch. Yep.
Yeah, get in touch.
Definitely get in touch.
But I'm sure you can reach out to the guys, and they could organise a starting starting pack to get started and upload a model. As Danny said, they're in Sydney as well, so I'm pretty sure they're more than happy to help.
Did you mention we had a promotion with Trendspek, I think in the last episode? We
do, and we mentioned in episode 4. So the offer is when you get a paid subscription, you'll get an upgrade of 50 GP, which is valued at $747.
Just make sure you mention to the guys via the chat box in the bottom right-hand corner that you're from Drones Down Under, and the guys will take care of you.
That's it. If they don't, tell us and we'll take care of them. No. Good guys, they'll look after you.
All right, jump into the last one.
Last one we've got is Skand. What do we got here? So visualization platform. Sorry,
you're gone.
Yeah, I was going to say visualization platform again for visualizing large assets, large data sets, I should say, and 2D and 3D visualization, probably with a focus more into the AI, which is quite good. And the team's based out of Melbourne. So definitely worth reaching out. The likes of Brett, get in touch with them, get them to walk through the platform. Quite a friendly group. And again, like Trendspek, supports in Australian time zone. And as you can see there, we'll post all the links so you can actually have a look at the platform features. And I'm pretty sure they got a trial that can, if you reach out to them, I'm sure they'll help you out.
It's awesome. Yep. I love that all these softwares actually do have trials or are willing to, show what they can do.
Definitely. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the best way to see any product is just to have a play with it yourself. So, I think they'd know it'd be silly not to be honest. But they're definitely, that's what people need to realise, that a lot of these do have trials. Get out there, use them, have a crack with them, see what you could apply them to. So,
right on.
Yeah, I think so obviously there's a lot more platforms out there. We've picked a handful of platforms in the time that we want to talk about. And some of these we've actually used naturally. And there's always new platforms coming on. So if you think there's other platforms we should look and talk about, by all means, in relation to asset inspection, let us know. And that's probably quite a good variety there. There's 8 platforms we just talked about. So I'm pretty sure you can find something that works. And there's probably other platforms that you could use that are free. But Danny, you had one, I think you mentioned.
There's one called 3DF Zephyr Aerial. Same thing. There's a free trial. I can't talk much about it because I haven't used it for a couple of years. But check it out. There's a free version.
It is fairly limited. I saw with the free version, I think you're limited to 50 images. So if you were going to model something particularly with a drone, just keep in mind that you have limited images, and it probably won't be a really detailed capture, but you'll get a model. But you're not going to get super detailed, though.
But if you're getting started to asset inspection or modeling, it's, you don't know which tool, you don't want to spend the money, it's probably a good start. And you'll learn very quickly what not to use, and that's the whole point. So, the last thing you want to do is spend $10,000 on a platform and not really know what you're doing. So, and you might use it once for the year. So I think go through the different links that we'll share and reach out to the teams. They're all quite fairly friendly. And this is why I think the main thing is try and find support in Australia, which is going to help you when you have more challenging projects come through. So always look to see whether, are these people contactable, how responsive they are. I think that plays a big part in the platform.
Or if you're also working international, reach out anyway.
It's whether they respond.
We're going to respond.
They might take a few days to respond. That's the problem.
I'm not answering emails at 1 o'clock in the morning. Actually, no, that's a lie. I do that in my sleep a few times. That's a story for another day.
Anything else you want to add, lads?
It's
I think we pretty much covered that off quite well.
Awesome. So that's it for episode 3. Please listen to episode 4, which is our final in the asset inspection series, which we'll do a deep dive with Trendspek, and that'll be out shortly. So thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. And until the next one.
Peace out.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.